Hoje no meu birimbá não tocou. Hoje meu pandeiro está mudo. Hoje nem matava que não falou.
Hello, my name is Travis Kennedy, creator, editor, cameraman, and producer of Kennedy's Voyage of Discovery. KVOD TV is a project I recently started as a way to work through my issues stemming from my service-connected post-traumatic stress disorder. I was in the Army 3 different times, first in '94 as an 11 mic mechanized infantry, then the second time in 2001 where I was retraining for 19 Delta Cavalry Scout. After a couple years out of the military service, while in that training, I fractured the femoral neck of my hip and was pressed into a medical discharge. A few months after I was discharged fully out of the military, 9/11 happened. And that afternoon, I was back in the recruiter's office asking what I needed to do to get back in. They basically told me, "Oh, you got a cane. There ain't nothing that you can do. You're done." A few waivers and doctor's letters later, and a lot of work to lose my cane, and I was retraining to become a 14 Juliet down at Fort Bliss, Texas. 14 Juliet is Air Defense Command and Control. In the course of my third time in the service, the hips that they had put in to my hip to hold it together began to loosen and work their way out, so I ended up having to have them removed. After the surgery, my hip never recovered fully, so back on the cane I went and sent to get myself another medical discharge. So I was in '05. I'm not going to go into a lot of details at this time about what I did in the military, where I was, all that stuff. I used to be really proud of my military service, but the way climate has changed in society and stuff, I've become almost ashamed of being a veteran. I used to always wear military related stuff. Now, very rarely. After I got out in '05, I began trying to find work. Coming out of the military, you don't have a whole lot of real world jobs when you're doing infantry or cavalry scouts, even 14 Juliet. There's not a whole lot of call for defense in the civilian world. Everybody says, well, yeah, but you got team leading skills and all this and that, but the reality is that are really not looking specifically for that. VA gave me a 10% disability on my hip. Started fighting with them. After a couple years, or a year or two, they said, well, we can get you into the VOC rehab program. I was like, okay, that's fine, but we gotta make sure if we do this that I get something that has very little math. I can't do math. One of the biggest reasons I never finished high school and got my GED is because math. I just can never do it. I couldn't get through the algebra, even basic algebra. So I come up with a few ideas of things I'd like to do, and they, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. Then I start listening to what they start telling me. Well, you can do this, you can do this. So I came down to graphics design, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. She's like, don't worry, we can get you tutors, we can get you anything that you need to help you pass this class. And I'm like, yeah, right. So get through the whole course and failed multiple semesters trying to get through the math course. Math 100, the very basic. So after second or third semester, I can't remember what it was, that I failed the math, the VA said, well, you're done. I'm like, okay. So there I am, and went to school, wasted all the, well, didn't waste my time because I got the skills from the graphic design. I learned how to use the Photoshop and all the different programs, and I just couldn't pass the math. But without a degree, it was pretty much a waste of time. I go back out and start looking for work more. And when you're on a cane, your hips all screwed up. You can't stand for too long. You can't sit for too long. My leg, when I'm walking along, well, all of a sudden it'll be like I lose control of my hip, all the muscles and stuff, and I end up flat on my face. So it's hard to get a job when you can't function. So I start by fighting with the VA more and more, trying to get my VA out. Go in there and talking to doctors and all this and that. Well, they send me to mental health and all this and that. And, oh, well, you got post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of figured that, but so we'll get you fixed up. They already had me on Percocet and all that good stuff. They'd rotate between Percocet, Vicodin, and oxycodone for my pain, and then Flexeril and some other muscle relaxers on top of that. And then they started throwing in all these mood stabilizers, and I became pretty much a zombie. Still in a lot of pain. That still never changed. I've been doing it since I broke it the first time in '01. But I just kept pushing through. Well, a couple years go by and I got my 60% disability, and the VA says, well, we'll send you to voc rehab again for retraining. I'm like, okay, new person. Like, okay, you got your file in front of you. I failed the math each and every time. Like, oh, don't worry, we can get you through anything. I have faith that we can do this. I'm like, okay, well, these are the things I want to do. And I was like, I'd like to, my first choice was become a scuba diver instructor. Weightless environment when you're at scuba diving and in the ocean, it's a lot easier for me to get around, just swimming and stuff. Not so much pressure on the hip all the time. Oh, no, you can't do that because you gotta move tanks and stuff like that. And I'm like, yes, but there's carts and stuff for moving tanks. There's ways that I could work around it. Oh, no, we can't do it. It's like, okay. And at this point, I had already had a doctor's note saying that, yes, this would be a good thing physically for him, for his leg, blah, blah, blah. Someone from outside the VA. And they were just like, no. So I'm like, okay, well, how about dog training? And I had articles and articles about people that dog train when they're in wheelchairs, all of this and that. So they're like, no, you can't do that with your hip. It would never work. You can't do it. So I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? The guy ultimately came up with computer-assisted drafting. I looked at him, and the first words out of my mouth was, yeah, right. I really looked at him like he was a joke, because I had explained to him multiple times, I can't do math. You start throwing letters in with the numbers and parentheses, and you might as well just be throwing a ancient Greek text at me and saying, tell me what it says. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try again, what the hell, what's worse that can happen, I'll fail out again. So I got in there, and I actually did excellent on pretty much the whole course, except for the math. And I purposely waited until the last couple semesters to do the math because I knew that was going to kill me. Well, the first semester I take it, and failed. Second semester I take it, and this time I have a tutor, and I failed. Third time, the teacher himself took his time out of his day every afternoon and sat down with me and tried to work with me on my math. At the end of that semester, he looked at me and he said, this is the first time in 40 years that I haven't been able to get someone through a math course. I'm like, well, I tried, and he goes, yeah, I know you tried. You gave 110%. I've seen that, every day, but you're not geared for it. I'm like, yeah, I know. So consequently, all them A's and B's and stuff that I had for all my other courses didn't matter for shit. No degree. VA, oh, well, you're done. Okay. At this point, I was still kind of pissed off that they wouldn't listen to me yet. And so I was like, I'm going to put their decision up for appeal on the dog training and the scuba diving. So I didn't think anything would ever come of it, and I put in the paperwork and forgot about it. About 3 years later, get a phone call from the VA. Hey, this is such and such. I'd like you to come down to the Voc Rehab and talk to us. We got some news for you and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, I get down to the office there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they set me down, and we got this paperwork from DC, and you've been approved to go to the dog training school. Yeah, right. What's the catch? No catch. You made your case. It went all the way up to Washington DC, and they approved it, and so we have no choice but to okay it. So packed my bags, went to Missouri to Tom Roy's school for dog training. Excellent school, loved it there. And started my course. At this point, I'm on methadone. They'd take me off the oxys and put me on methadone, which was horrible. And I'm going to school. I'm doing my best, doing pretty good. I enjoyed it. And it comes time for me to renew my pills. Well, VA in South Dakota is like, yeah, you just go down to the VA there in Missouri and St. Louis, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to get your pills. No. They refused. I had to fight. I had went in there a couple days before, about a week before my pills ran out. So, I was kind of preparing for it. And they refused. And so I had to convince the VA in South Dakota that they needed to send them up to me. And I ended up having to go through withdrawals for 2 or 3 days waiting for my pills. It made it really hard to get through the program. But, put a long story short, I did make it through most of it. When it came at the end of the schooling, you have certain tests, and the tests, it's on your ability to train the dogs, but also your dog's willingness to go through the courses. And my dogs weren't ready. They said, Tom Rose, the school, they said, well, that's fine. We can give you a couple extra months. That's no problem. You stay here. You keep working with the dogs, keep training, and that's fine. But we can't let you stay in housing. Which I was like, fine. Yeah, that's fine. I know you got another group coming in. Well, I go back to my VA people, and they're like, I told them the situation. I'm like, I got a couple more months. A lot of students, take an extra month or so to finish up their testing, and it's not uncommon. They're like, and I'm like, can I still keep my some of my funding just for living expenses. You know, getting in a small apartment and a little bit of food. Like, nope, can't do it. I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? They're like, you're gonna have to work it out yourself. Well, I got a wife and 3 kids, and most of my money's going to them. So I'm like, you know, there's nothing that you can do at all. They're like, no. I had to go back to the school and tell them, you know, VA's not going to pay for it, and I can't afford to stay here on my own. So once again, no degree. And I really tried. I tried to figure out hundreds of ways to stay there, but I ended up with all the skills. But once again, if you don't have a degree, you might as well just be pissing in the wind. So I get out, get done with school, and I started trying to make my own business. You know, tried a variety of different ways of trying to get a dog training business going. Got in contact with the sheriff's office out here in Walla Walla area, and they sounded interested. You know, they wanted to see a demonstration, and we were setting up times, and so I took the leap of faith. You know, I was like, okay, things are working for me. Packed up the wife and kids in the RV, and we moved back out to Washington State. We get over here, and things just fell apart. I mean, we ended up living in the RV for almost a year. I spent months trying to get the Walla Walla sheriff on the phone to talk about the canine unit and stuff, and they were like, yeah, well, we don't have the budget for it and stuff. And I was like, you know, I'm trying to tell you, I only got 2 trained dogs here. They're both trained for protection work, and they're also, one's trained as a bomb sniffing dog, one's trained for narcotics. You know, I'm willing to give you one of them. You know, all I want is, you know, a little bit of be involved in the training and helping you guys, and you know, to get my name out there. You know, maybe use a room in one of your buildings to help with training your canine officers, and you know, I was pretty much willing to work for free. All they will have had to have done is supplied dog food and maybe a little bit of training equipment. No, it's too expensive. We just can't do it. Yeah, except for a month later, when he calls me up and says, hey, we could really use a donation to help get our new canine unit together and pay for our new dog and stuff. I'm like, you know what, you can find your donation right now. I can't say that on here because that would be a bad thing, but yeah, I told him where he could find his donation, and I hung up the phone. I was not amused at all. That was a few years ago. Things just, you know, they just didn't work out at all. But I kept my faith, you know, I kept on trying, and you know, I met a couple of good guys out here, and became close to them like brothers, you know, and I had swore to myself I'd never get close to anyone again. Not after the military, you know, I didn't want to be close to anyone. I had my family, that was it. Well, you know, I start making a really good close friendship with these guys. These guys, for a few years, it was a really good friendship, and I don't know what I did, what I said, how I offended them. But we used to get together for holidays and used to be in each other's lives. You know, we have each other over for dinners and stuff, and then suddenly it was, I don't know if I pushed them away somehow, but all of a sudden they were gone. You know, and it was at a time when I really needed them the most. I was going through a lot of rough spots with children, disciplinary issues, and my depression was getting worse and worse, and it's been kind of a spiral for the last 2 years or a year and a half since that all started. And so I found myself pretty much alone, other than talking on the phone to Wade over in Taiwan, and my family, of course. And so I've been trying to figure out ways to combat my post-traumatic stress and the loneliness and all that stuff, and so that's why I started this channel. It's my way of putting myself out there and talking to other people without really having to talk to people. I guess, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to get more comfortable with myself again. Trying to work through my issues, my stresses about dealing with people, and this is the way I thought I might be able to do that. My content is kind of random at times. Right now my big focus has been trying to get a book that I started writing 4 or 5 years ago, and I could never get anybody to read any of it, so I didn't know if it was worth continuing on. Other things happened and life took over, but now I'm just reading it and putting it on YouTube, and I've had some positive reactions, not much, but it takes time. But at least, I'm telling a story, and, what's the use in writing a story if it's never heard? And this way I'm putting it out there so that the world can hear it, and if they like it, great. If not, well, that's great too, Planning on putting out other videos about, I got one about my falconry. I'm gonna be doing a few more of those, maybe some on dog training and some cooking videos and stuff. I like to make up interesting new recipes, but those are all going to be things that are put on this channel, and it's just, like I said, a way for me to express myself. So I appreciate you, all those that tune in and listen to this old man rant. If you like it, subscribe and share it and like the videos, and if you don't, well, that's fine too. Thank you for your time and watching it, and hopefully you'll see me again sometime soon, and you'll keep watching to see what comes out next. I guess I will wrap that up there and say thank you and good night.
Oggi a Luana Brilo